The message arrived while Lisa Peterson was standing inside a wedding venue her brother had spent 2 years bragging about. The ballroom smelled of fresh paint, polished wood, and white roses waiting in buckets near the service doors. A long table was covered with linen samples. Gold chairs were stacked against the wall. On the far side of the room, 2 workers were testing the lights that would shine over the bride and groom on Saturday evening. Lisa's phone buzzed on top of a leather folder. She glanced down. It was from David. For 1 second, she thought he was asking about arrival time, or family photos, or maybe whether she could help their mother with transportation. Then she read the message. Lisa, Rachel, and I have decided it's better if you don't come to the wedding. We want the day to feel positive and successful. No hard feelings, but you don't really fit the image we're trying to build. Lisa did not move. The workers kept talking near the stage. Someone laughed in the hallway. A cart rolled past carrying boxes of crystal glasses. On the folder under her hand, printed in neat black letters, were the words: Peterson Collins Wedding. Riverside Manor. Saturday, June 15th. Her brother had just removed her from his perfect wedding. And he had no idea he was standing inside her business. Lisa locked her phone, then unlocked it again and read the message one more time, not because she needed to understand it, but because some pain has to be seen twice before it becomes real. No hard feelings. That was the part that almost made her smile. David always knew how to cut someone and call it polite. He had done it since they were young. He never shouted if he could sound reasonable. He never looked cruel if he could look concerned. At family dinners, when Lisa talked about buying her first restaurant, he had asked if she was still waiting tables. When she missed a holiday because a kitchen pipe burst on Christmas Eve, he told everyone she had chosen work over family. When she bought her downtown loft, he joked that restaurant people must be getting paid better these days. Their mother called it teasing. David called it honesty. Lisa had called it nothing. For years, she had let them think what they wanted. She let them believe she was just managing restaurants. She let them ask Kevin about his new house, David about his promotion, their cousins about babies and school districts, while her own work was reduced to one sentence. Lisa is still in hospitality. Still. As if she was standing in one place while everyone else moved forward. But Lisa had moved. She had moved quietly. She had taken a failing cafe with cracked tiles and 3 months of unpaid rent and turned it into a waiting list restaurant. Then came catering. Then private dining. Then events. Then Riverside Manor, the old estate everyone in their city dreamed of booking if they wanted to look important. Now Meridian Hospitality Group owned 12 restaurants, 6 venues, 2 catering kitchens, and employed more than 300 people. Her family did not know because they had never asked the right questions. And Lisa had stopped offering answers to people who only listened when success wore a ring, a baby, or a safer job title. A woman in a navy blazer entered the ballroom carrying a tablet. "Ms. Peterson," she said. The florist confirmed the white rose installation for the Peterson Collins ceremony. "We just need your final approval before they start building the arch." Lisa slipped the phone into her coat pocket. Patricia Hale, Riverside Manor's event director, stopped when she saw Lisa's face. "Is everything all right?" Lisa looked across the ballroom. At the tall windows. At the polished floor. At the place where David would stand in a black tuxedo, smiling for people he wanted to impress. She opened the folder. Inside were copies of the contract, vendor schedules, catering menu, payment record, guest count, and the final invoice. $45,000. David had paid a deposit months ago. Rachel had cried during the tasting because the lemon herb chicken reminded her of California. Her parents had requested a wine pairing. David had asked for extra lighting near the entrance because he wanted the first impression to feel elegant. Lisa remembered that word. He had used it when he told their mother Riverside Manor was the kind of place that showed people who you were. Now Lisa wondered what it showed about him. Patricia stepped closer. Lisa? Lisa closed the folder. Cancel the Peterson Collins booking. Patricia blinked. I'm sorry? Cancel it. The wedding is in 3 days. I know. Patricia lowered her tablet slowly. The staff is scheduled. The flowers are ordered. Catering prep starts tomorrow morning. The guests are coming from out of state. Lisa's voice stayed even. I'll cover any loss we can't recover. No vendor gets hurt. No staff member loses pay. Patricia looked at the folder, then at Lisa. May I ask what happened? Lisa took out her phone and handed it to her. Patricia read the message. Her expression changed in small stages. First confusion. Then discomfort. Then quiet anger. Oh, she said. Lisa put the phone back in her pocket. Tell them Riverside Manor is no longer able to host the wedding due to an internal scheduling decision. Keep it professional. Patricia's mouth tightened. They will panic. They should. Do you want me to tell them who made the decision? No. Patricia nodded, but she did not leave. Lisa looked at her. Say it. Patricia drew a breath. You have every right to be hurt. But this will hurt them badly. Lisa looked toward the wedding arch pieces lying near the wall, wrapped in clear plastic. I know. Are you sure that's what you want? For the first time, Lisa's calm cracked just enough to show the wound underneath. No, she said softly. But I'm sure I'm tired of being treated like a stain on someone else's perfect picture. Patricia held her gaze. Then she nodded. I'll handle it. By late afternoon, the first call came. Lisa was in her office above the east garden, where the windows looked down over the lawn David had chosen for his ceremony. The sky had turned cloudy. The chairs were still stacked in rows. A crew member was folding the white aisle runner back into its cover. Her phone lit up. David. She let it ring twice before answering. Hello? Lisa. His voice was tight. Too bright. The voice he used when he wanted to sound calm but had already lost control. Something insane just happened. Lisa leaned back in her chair. What happened? Riverside Manor canceled our wedding. She looked down at the signed cancellation notice on her desk. Oh. Oh? Lisa, it's not oh. It's a disaster. We have 150 guests. Rachel's parents are already flying in. The invitations say Riverside Manor. The rehearsal dinner is tomorrow. That sounds difficult. Difficult? It's impossible. They said there was some internal scheduling issue. What does that even mean? How does a venue just cancel 3 days before a wedding? Lisa watched a staff member carry a box of gold napkin rings across the garden path. I don't know, David. How does someone remove their own sister from a wedding 3 days before it happens? Silence. It was not long, but it was long enough. Lisa, he said carefully, this is not the time. No? I know you're upset about the text. Do you? I was under pressure. Rachel's family has expectations. The wedding has been stressful. I worded it badly. Lisa gave a small, empty laugh. You worded it clearly. Can we talk about that later? Right now I need help. The garden below her office looked suddenly very still. Help from me? Yes. The person who doesn't fit the image? He exhaled sharply. Lisa, please. What exactly do you need? You work in restaurants. You must know event people. Caterers. Managers. Venue owners. Anyone who can help us find a place for Saturday. Lisa turned her chair slightly toward the window. There it was. The same work that made her embarrassing was now useful. He did not respect it, but he wanted access to it. You want my restaurant connections, she said. I need options. From your unsuccessful sister. I didn't say unsuccessful. You said I would bring down the mood. I said you don't fit the image. That's worse, David. He went quiet again. When he spoke, his voice had lost some of its polish. Rachel is crying. Mom is calling everyone. Her father is furious. I don't have time to argue about wording. Lisa closed her eyes for a moment. There was the old David. When his words hurt someone, the problem was not the wound. The problem was the timing of the complaint. I'll see what I can find, Lisa said. Relief rushed into his voice so fast it almost sounded like love. Thank you. Seriously, Lisa. I knew you'd understand. No, she said, looking at the empty lawn below. You didn't know that. You hoped I'd still be useful. He did not answer. Lisa ended the call before he could find another excuse. Within an hour, the family group chat came alive. Mom, David told me about the venue. Please help him if you can. This is not the time for hard feelings. Kevin, do you know anyone with a hall or banquet space? Even something smaller? Aunt Margaret, families should come together during emergencies. Lisa stared at that one for a while. Family should come together. Funny how family became a sacred word only after David needed something. No one asked why she had been uninvited. No one asked what David had said. No one asked why Lisa, who apparently did not fit the wedding image, was suddenly responsible for saving it. Her mother called next. Lisa almost ignored it. Then she answered. Hi, Mom. Lisa, sweetheart, I just spoke to David. He's falling apart. Lisa picked up a pen and rolled it between her fingers. I'm sure he is. Can you please not be cold right now? Lisa's hand stopped. Cold? You know what I mean. Your brother made a mistake with that message, but weddings make people crazy. Mom, he told me not to come. I know, and he shouldn't have. But Rachel's family is very traditional, and David is trying so hard to make a good impression. Lisa looked at the framed photo on her shelf. It was from the opening night of her first restaurant. Patricia had taken it. Lisa was 24, standing outside in the rain with a broken umbrella and a smile so tired it looked almost painful. Behind her, the sign glowed for the first time. Her family had not come that night. David had a work dinner. Her mother said restaurants were too noisy. Kevin forgot. Lisa touched the edge of the frame. So his image matters more than his sister? That's not fair. No, Mom. It's exactly fair. Her mother sighed. You've always been sensitive about this. Lisa looked at the wedding contract again. No. I've been quiet about it. The line went still. Her mother spoke more softly. Can you help him or not? Lisa did not answer right away. Below her window, the sky opened and thin rain began to fall over the garden. The workers rushed to cover the chairs. The white aisle runner disappeared into a black case. I'll make some calls, Lisa said. Her mother sounded relieved. That's my girl. Lisa ended the call and placed the phone face down. That's my girl. Not when she built the company. Not when she carried payroll through a hard winter. Not when she bought Riverside Manor and saved 82 jobs. Only now. When David's perfect day was in danger. That night, Lisa drove to one of her restaurants across town. She liked going there when she needed to think. It had been her first one. The floor still creaked near the back booth. The kitchen still smelled like garlic, butter, and heat. The sign outside had been replaced twice, but Lisa kept the original broken letter P in her office as a reminder that nothing beautiful had started beautiful. The restaurant was almost closing when an older man in a white apron stepped out of the kitchen. Long face, Marco said. Lisa sat at the bar. Long day. Marco had been her first chef, first real supporter, and the only person in those early years who had believed she was building more than a place to eat. He placed a cup of coffee in front of her. Family? Lisa looked up. How did you know? Only family makes successful people look that tired. She smiled, but it faded quickly. My brother uninvited me from his wedding. Marco's face hardened. Why? I don't match the picture he wants. Marco leaned both hands on the bar. Then he needs a smaller picture. Lisa wrapped both hands around the cup. The wedding was booked at Riverside. For a moment, Marco just stared. Then he understood. Oh. I cancelled it. He did not look shocked. He looked sad. And now? Now everyone wants me to fix it. Marco nodded slowly. Of course they do. Lisa looked into the dark coffee. I could let him lose everything. The venue, the flowers, the guests, the whole perfect show. You could. He would never forget it. No, Marco said. But neither would you. Lisa looked up. Marco's voice softened. Lisa, a lesson can be sharp without becoming a knife. She said nothing. He wiped the counter with slow, careful strokes. You built all this because people underestimated you. Don't let their blindness decide what kind of person you become. Lisa hated that he was right. She also hated that loving someone did not make their cruelty hurt less. Her phone buzzed again. David. She did not answer. A message appeared. Please. I called 12 places. Nothing works. I know you're angry, but I'm begging you. Help me. Lisa read it twice. Then another message came. I shouldn't have said what I said. But if this wedding falls apart, Rachel will never forgive me. Lisa set the phone down. Not I hurt you. Not I was wrong. Just the wedding. Still the wedding. Still his fear of being embarrassed. The next morning, David called before 8. Lisa answered from her office at Meridian headquarters, where the walls were glass and the conference room table was covered in property files. Did you find anything? He asked, without saying hello. Good morning to you too. He paused. Sorry. Good morning. Did you find anything? I had my team check availability. Your team? Lisa looked at the people moving outside her office: finance, operations, events, catering. Yes. My team. What team? The people I work with. Oh. Right. He sounded distracted. And? There are a few places. A community center near Westbrook. A hotel ballroom with a low ceiling. A private farm outside the city, but they don't have enough parking. David made a sound like he had been punched. Rachel will hate all of those. Probably. Lisa, there has to be something better. Better like Riverside Manor? Nothing is like Riverside Manor. Lisa looked at the framed architectural sketch hanging on her wall. Riverside Manor, before restoration. Cracked stone. Dead vines. Broken windows. A place no bank wanted to touch. She had bought it when everyone said it was too expensive to repair. Just like they said she was too stubborn to succeed. Then maybe you should ask Riverside Manor to reconsider, she said. I did. They won't even let me speak to the owner. Lisa picked up a silver pen and turned it slowly. Maybe the owner has already made up their mind. David went quiet. What does that mean? It means some decisions are final. Lisa. His voice changed. For the first time, there was something underneath the panic. Suspicion. How do you know that? Lisa did not answer. Lisa, he said again, slower now, what exactly do you do in hospitality? She looked through the glass wall at Patricia walking toward her office with the Peterson Collins file in her hand. For years, David had never cared enough to ask. Now the question had finally found him. Lisa stood as Patricia entered. On the top page was the cancellation notice. Under it was the ownership authorization line. Lisa M. Peterson. Founder and CEO. Meridian Hospitality Group. Lisa kept her eyes on the paper while David waited on the phone. Then she said quietly. More than you thought. David did not speak for several seconds. Lisa could hear his breathing through the phone, quick and uneven now, as if his mind had started walking into rooms he had kept locked for years. What does that mean? He asked. Lisa took the file from Patricia and placed it on her desk. It means I don't just know people in hospitality. Patricia stood quietly near the door, watching Lisa's face, waiting for instruction. David tried to laugh, but it came out thin. Okay. Then explain it. Lisa looked at the authorization line again. Her name was there in black ink. Clean. Legal. Final. I own Meridian Hospitality Group. Another silence. This one was different. The first silence had been confusion. This one was fear. You own, David stopped. What is Meridian? Lisa almost smiled. Not because it was funny, but because the answer had been around him for years. On restaurant signs. On catering vans. On venue brochures. On the invoice for his own wedding. Meridian owns 12 restaurants, she said, 6 event venues, 2 catering kitchens, and the management company that runs Riverside Manor. David's voice dropped. No. Lisa looked through the glass wall. Patricia's eyes lowered, not wanting to witness too much. Yes. No, Lisa. That's not possible. It is. You work for them. I founded it. The line went so quiet that Lisa could hear the faint sound of traffic outside David's window. When he finally spoke, his voice was smaller. "You own Riverside Manor?" Lisa did not soften the answer. "Yes." A chair scraped on his end of the call. "Oh my God." Lisa waited. For years, David had filled every silence with advice, jokes, corrections, and small cuts wrapped in concern. Now silence was the only honest thing he had left. "You cancelled it," he said. "I approved the cancellation." "Because of my text." "Because you told me I didn't belong at a wedding being held in a place I own." David exhaled. It sounded almost like his body had forgotten how to hold pride. "Lisa." "No," she said gently. "Don't start with my name like that." "Not yet." "I didn't know." "That is not a defense, David." "I know, but I didn't know you were." "Worth respecting?" He did not answer. Lisa looked at Patricia and gave a small nod. Patricia stepped out and closed the door behind her. David swallowed audibly. "I didn't mean it like that." "You meant exactly that. You just didn't know the numbers were wrong." "That's not fair." Lisa walked to the window. Below, Riverside Manor's garden was wet from last night's rain. The lawn looked greener now. The white chairs had been covered and lined up under the terrace. Everything was still waiting, like the wedding itself was holding its breath. What would have made it fair, she asked. If I really was struggling? If I really did just manage a restaurant? Would that have made your message kinder? David said nothing. Lisa continued, but her voice stayed calm. You didn't ask what I built. You didn't ask what I carried. You didn't ask why I missed holidays or why I came home tired. You saw a sister who didn't get married, didn't have children, didn't talk about office promotions, and you decided that meant I had fallen behind. Lisa, I was wrong. About my money? About you. She turned back toward the desk. That was closer. But not enough. David rushed on. I was worried about Rachel's family. Her parents are formal. They care about appearances. I wanted the day to look perfect. And I made it look less perfect? No. I mean, I thought. His voice cracked on the word. That small crack did more than any apology. It was the sound of a man hearing himself. Lisa picked up the invitation from the file. Heavy cream paper. Gold letters. Riverside Manor printed across the bottom like a crown. You spent months using my venue to prove you belonged in a better circle, she said. Then you cut me out because you thought I didn't belong in that same circle. David breathed out slowly. I don't know what to say. Then don't perform. Just think. Another pause. When he spoke again, the panic had changed into shame. Rachel doesn't know. Doesn't know what? About the text. I told her there was a family disagreement. Lisa's jaw tightened, but she kept her voice steady. So you hid the cruelty and kept the crisis. I was embarrassed. No. You were afraid she would see what you did. That landed. David did not deny it. Outside Lisa's office, someone knocked once. Patricia opened the door just enough to hold up her phone. Rachel Collins is calling the main line again, she mouthed. Lisa nodded for her to wait. On Lisa's phone, David said, her father is threatening to call a lawyer. He thinks Riverside Manor breached the contract. Lisa glanced at the contract. The contract allows termination under ownership discretion with full refund and vendor reimbursement in extreme internal circumstances. David gave a broken laugh. You sound like a lawyer. No. I sound like someone who reads what she signs. I deserve that. You deserve worse. But worse is not always useful. He went quiet. That was when Lisa heard something new in his breathing. Not fear of a wedding falling apart. Fear of what kind of brother he had become. Can it be fixed? He asked. Lisa did not answer right away. She let him sit with the question. Down in the garden, a worker lifted one of the white chair covers and shook rain from its edge. The water fell in a bright line. It depends, she said. On what? On whether you want the venue back, or whether you want your sister back. David's voice lowered. I want both. Then you have to stop treating one like the price for the other. He stayed silent. Lisa returned to her desk and opened a drawer. Inside was an old photo, folded at one corner. She had kept it for no reason she could explain. David was 17 in the picture, standing beside her after her high school graduation. His arm was around her shoulders. He was laughing. Lisa was smiling up at him like every younger sister who still believes her brother will always protect her. She had forgotten how much she once trusted him. Do you remember my first restaurant opening? She asked. David seemed caught off guard. What? The little place on Mercer Street. It rained that night. The sign shorted out. I called Mom. I called you. I asked if anyone could come for 10 minutes. He was quiet. I had a work thing, he said, but the excuse sounded weak even to him. You had dinner with friends. He did not answer. Marco stayed with me until 2 in the morning, she said. He was my chef. He helped me tape plastic over the window because water was coming in near the door. We served 23 people that night. I thought it was a miracle. Lisa. Don't apologize for that yet. You'll run out of apologies before we reach the present. The words were sharp, but her tone was not. That made them hurt more. David whispered, I didn't know it mattered that much. Because it didn't happen to you. The line went still. Then a muffled voice sounded on David's side. Rachel. Lisa could not make out the words, only the panic in them. David covered the phone, but not fully. I'm talking to Lisa, he said. Rachel's voice sharpened. The sister you disinvited? Lisa's eyes lifted. So Rachel knew now. There was movement, a hand over the phone, then David came back. Lisa, Rachel wants to speak to you. Lisa closed the file. Put her on. A moment later, Rachel's voice came through. It was strained, but not cruel. Lisa? Yes. I just read the message David sent you. Lisa did not speak. Rachel took a shaky breath. I didn't write it. I didn't ask him to send it. But I did complain. I told him I was scared his family would look messy in front of mine. Messy, Lisa repeated. I know how that sounds. Do you? Rachel's voice broke slightly. My parents can be hard to impress. I let that matter too much. Lisa looked at the wedding menu in the folder. Rachel had chosen the lemon chicken, the roasted vegetables, the tiny honey cakes for dessert. What did David tell you about me? Lisa asked. Rachel hesitated. That you worked in restaurants. That you were independent. That you didn't really care about family events. Lisa looked out at the garden again. There it was. A whole person reduced to a convenient story. And did you believe him? I didn't question it. That is also a choice. Rachel absorbed it quietly. You're right. It was the first clean admission Lisa had heard all week. No excuse. No panic. No image management. Just 2 words. You're right. Rachel continued, I don't know what David has asked you for, but I'm not calling to beg for the venue. I'm calling because what he sent was ugly. And I'm ashamed I cared more about appearances than asking who you were. Lisa felt something in her chest loosen, not enough to heal, but enough to breathe. Rachel's voice softened. If you don't reinstate the wedding, I'll understand. I'll hate it, but I'll understand. David said something in the background, low and anxious. Rachel covered the phone and snapped, No, David. She gets to hear this without you managing it. For the first time in 2 days, Lisa almost laughed. Maybe Rachel had more spine than the room had given her credit for. Rachel, Lisa said, give the phone back to David. There was a pause, then David returned. He sounded different now. Less like a man bargaining. More like a man waiting for a sentence. I'm here, he said. Lisa sat down. The wedding can happen at Riverside Manor. David made a sound like he had been holding his breath underwater. Lisa, thank you. Thank you, I'm not finished. He stopped immediately. There are conditions. Anything. No. Don't say anything until you hear them. Okay. Lisa opened the contract and placed a blank sheet beside it. First, I attend the wedding as your sister. Not as a vendor. Not as a secret. Not as someone you hide near a corner table. Yes. Of course. Second, when people ask about me, you will tell the truth. Not just that I own the venue. You will tell them you didn't know because you never cared enough to ask. David inhaled. That's going to be humiliating. Lisa's voice stayed low. Yes. The word hung between them. Not cruel. Not loud. Just balanced. He had feared public embarrassment. Now he had to choose public honesty. Okay, he said. Third, Lisa continued, if anyone makes a joke about my life, my work, or why I'm not married, you correct it. Not later. Not privately. In the moment. I will. Fourth, you tell Mom what you did before she calls me again asking me to be less cold. A painful silence followed. I will, he said again, quieter. And last, Lisa said, you stop confusing image with family. Not just for the wedding. After it. At dinners. On holidays. In rooms where I'm not there. David's voice was rough now. I don't know if I can fix everything I've made you feel. You can't. That truth sat there. Then Lisa added, but you can stop adding to it. David let out a slow breath. I'll do it. Lisa looked at the photo of them from her graduation. The girl in that picture would have forgiven him for less. The woman in the office needed more. Patricia will call you within 10 minutes, she said. The booking will be reinstated. The original schedule remains. No staff member will be mistreated because of your panic. If you raise your voice at anyone from my team, the wedding is over again. I won't. I know. Because now you know who signs the papers. He took that without arguing. Before she ended the call, David said, "Lisa?" "Yes?" "I'm not proud of who I was this week." She closed her eyes. "That's a start." Saturday arrived with a sky so clear it felt almost unfair. Riverside Manor stood bright against the morning sun, its stone walls washed clean by the rain. White roses climbed the ceremony arch. The garden chairs were lined in perfect rows. Staff moved through the halls with calm speed, carrying trays, flowers, garment bags, and last-minute fixes no guest would ever notice. Lisa arrived 2 hours before the ceremony. Not through the service entrance. Through the front doors. She wore a deep green dress, simple jewelry, and the kind of calm that made people look twice without knowing why. Patricia met her near the lobby. "Everything is ready." "Any issues?" "Only one." Lisa looked at her. "Your mother has asked 3 different staff members if they know where you are." Lisa sighed. "Of course she has." Patricia's mouth curved slightly. "And David has corrected her twice when she called you difficult." Lisa paused. That was new. Not enough. But new. In the bridal suite, Rachel was already dressed. Her gown spread around her like soft light. Her eyes were red, but her face was steady. When Lisa entered, the room quieted. Rachel's mother looked Lisa over, polite but unsure. Rachel's father stood near the window in a dark suit, holding a glass of water he had not touched. David was by the door. For a second, he looked like the boy from the old photo. Nervous. Exposed. Hoping she would still stand beside him. He walked toward her. No performance now. No charming smile for the room. Just a brother who had finally reached the cost of his own pride. "Lisa," he said, then turned to the others. "This is my sister." His voice shook once, but he continued. "She owns Meridian Hospitality Group. That means she owns Riverside Manor. She also owns the company that saved this wedding after I nearly ruined it." The room went completely still. His mother's face lost color first. Rachel's father lowered the glass. David looked at Lisa, then back at the room. "And I need to say something clearly. I didn't know any of that because I never asked. I made assumptions about her life. I treated her work like it was small because it didn't look like mine. Then I sent her a message telling her not to come today because I was more worried about appearances than family." His mother whispered, "David." He did not stop. "I'm ashamed of it. And if anyone here has questions about Lisa, ask with respect. She is not here because she owns the building. She is here because she is my sister, and I should have remembered that before I needed anything from her." No one moved. Lisa felt every eye in the room turn toward her. For years, rooms had gone quiet around her because people did not know what to do with her difference. This time, the silence belonged to the truth. Rachel stepped forward and took Lisa's hand. "I'm glad you came," she said. Lisa believed her. Not completely. Not blindly. But enough for that moment. The ceremony went on. The guests saw the perfect garden, the white flowers, the polished chairs, the soft light over the lawn. They did not see the wound under the beauty. They did not know how close the whole day had come to collapsing under one cruel message. But during the reception, the truth moved quietly from table to table. Not like gossip. Like a correction. "That's David's sister. She owns the venue." He didn't know? No, he admitted it. He said it in the bridal suite? Good for him. Lisa heard pieces of it while walking past the bar, while speaking with Patricia, while checking on an elderly aunt who needed a chair moved away from the speakers. Then Rachel's father approached her near the terrace. "Lisa," he said. His voice had the careful tone of a man who knew he had nearly judged the wrong person. "Dr. Collins," she replied. He looked back at the ballroom, where David and Rachel were laughing for photos. "This place is remarkable." "Thank you. David told me he only learned recently that it was yours." Lisa waited. He cleared his throat. "I suspect I owe you an apology too, though you may not have known it." Lisa tilted her head slightly. "For what?" "For allowing my family's idea of respectability to become pressure on theirs." He looked uncomfortable, but honest. "I value education, marriage, stability. Those are good things. But sometimes people like me mistake our path for the only respectable path." Lisa studied him. A week ago, she might have wanted him to feel small. Now she only wanted him to be clear. "If I had been only a restaurant manager," she asked, "would you be saying this?" He looked at her for a long moment. Then he gave the answer most people are too proud to give. "Before today, maybe not." Lisa nodded once. "That honesty is better than politeness." He gave a sad smile. "I'm learning that." Later, when the speeches began, David stood with a folded paper in his hand. Lisa sat at the family table. Not near the back. Not hidden beside distant cousins. At the family table. Their mother sat beside her, unusually quiet. Twice she had opened her mouth to explain herself. Twice Lisa had touched her water glass and looked away. Some conversations needed a quieter room. David tapped his glass. The ballroom settled. He looked at Rachel first. He spoke about love, patience, and the strange terror of building a life with someone who could see your worst parts and still ask you to become better. Then he turned toward Lisa. His fingers tightened around the paper. "I need to thank my sister," he said. A soft murmur moved through the room. David did not look away this time. "Not because she owns this beautiful place, though she does. Not because her company made today possible, though it did. I need to thank her because this week she gave me a lesson I should have learned years ago." Lisa felt her mother shift beside her. David's voice grew steadier. "I thought success had one shape. A certain job. A certain family picture. A certain way of living that made other people comfortable. And because my sister chose a different road, I treated her like she had chosen a smaller life." He stopped. The room was quiet enough to hear the ice settle in a glass. "I was wrong. Lisa did not have a smaller life. I had a smaller view." Lisa looked down. Not because she was weak. Because some words arrive late, and still find the place they were meant to reach. David continued. "She built something I was too proud to understand. But more than that, she remained my sister even when I gave her every reason to walk away. I'm grateful for this wedding. I'm more grateful that she made me face the kind of man I was becoming before I carried that man into my marriage." He raised his glass. "To Lisa. For her strength, her patience, and for reminding me that family is not about looking perfect in front of strangers. It's about standing beside each other when the truth makes us uncomfortable." For a second, nobody moved. Then Rachel stood and began clapping. Patricia clapped from near the service doors. Marco, who had come to supervise the late-night food station as a personal favor, wiped his hands on a towel and clapped too. Soon the whole room followed. Lisa did not cry. She simply sat very still, holding the stem of her glass, feeling something old and tight inside her finally loosen. After the last dance, after the cake had been cut and the guests had started drifting toward the valet stand, Lisa stepped out onto the terrace. The garden was dark now, except for the warm lights hanging above the path. The chairs were empty. A few rose petals had fallen onto the stone steps. Somewhere inside, someone laughed too loudly, and a server carried away the last tray of coffee cups. David found her there. For a while, he said nothing. That was the first smart thing he did. He stood beside her and looked over the lawn. "I don't think I understood how long I'd been hurting you," he said. Lisa watched a moth circle one of the garden lights. "No. You didn't. I made your life sound lonely because it didn't look like mine." "Yes. I made your work sound small because I didn't understand it." "Yes. I let other people's opinions matter more than my own sister." Lisa turned to him then. "And you made me prove my worth before you respected me." David's face tightened. That one hurt the most. Because it was the truest. "I'm sorry," he said. Not fast. Not polished. Not to end the conversation. Just sorry. Lisa leaned against the stone railing. "I forgive you." His eyes lifted. "But forgiveness is not the same as going back," she said. "I know. I'm not going to shrink myself at family dinners anymore. I'm not going to laugh when someone turns my life into a joke. I'm not going to let Mom call me sensitive when I finally answer." David nodded. "I'll back you up. You'll do more than that. You'll notice before I have to ask." He looked down, then nodded again. "I will." Lisa studied him in the soft terrace light. He still had the same face she remembered from childhood. Older now. Sharper. Tired from a week of fear and truth. But underneath, there was still her brother. Flawed. Proud. Late. But not lost. "You were almost very expensive to teach," she said. David gave a weak laugh. "How expensive?" $45,000 and your dignity." He winced. "Fair. And for the record," she added, "Meridian is worth more than 30 million now." His head turned slowly. "More than 30? Lisa smiled for the first time that day without pain behind it. "Yes." David stared at her. Then he covered his face with one hand. "I am such an idiot." "Yes," Lisa said. He dropped his hand and looked at her. "But you're my brother." The words landed softly between them. Inside, Rachel called his name. David looked toward the ballroom, then back at Lisa. "Will you come to dinner next Sunday?" Lisa raised an eyebrow. "Am I invited because I'm family, or because your wife wants to impress people with my catering?" He smiled, ashamed but honest. "Family. No catering. I'll cook." That might be a bigger consequence than losing the venue. He laughed then, really laughed, and for the first time all week, it did not sound like escape. 6 months later, David and Rachel hosted a small housewarming party. There were no gold chairs, no formal seating chart, no parents measuring the room for status. Just neighbors, friends, a long table of food, and David burning the first tray of bread in the kitchen. Lisa came carrying dessert from one of her restaurants. David met her at the door and took the boxes from her hands. Then, when a neighbor asked who she was, he did not mention money first. He did not mention buildings, restaurants, venues, or the empire she had built out of years nobody had bothered to see. He said, "This is my sister, Lisa. She's the person who taught me that family isn't something you polish for other people. It's something you protect." Lisa looked at him. He looked back. No speech. No crowd. No apology needed this time. Just a brother finally saying the right thing when there was nothing to gain from it. That was how Lisa knew the lesson had stayed. Not because David had praised her in a ballroom full of guests, but because he had learned to honor her in an ordinary doorway, on an ordinary night, when no one important was watching. Riverside Manor became famous in their family for more than a wedding. It became the place where David's perfect image cracked open and something better came through. Truth. Humility. Respect. And Lisa learned something too. Sometimes karma does not need to destroy the people who hurt you. Sometimes it only needs to place the truth in their hands and let it grow heavy enough that they finally understand what they almost lost. Her brother had called her a failure because he could not recognize success in a shape different from his own. But by the end, the real victory was not that Lisa owned the room. It was that she no longer needed the room to prove her worth.